What is more especially given offense to many and raised a loud cry against some preachers is though their conduct were intolerable, is their frightening poor innocent children with talk of hellfire and eternal damnation. But of those who complain so loudly of this really believe what is the general profession of the country, namely, that all are by nature the children of wrath and heirs of hell, and that every one that has not been born again, whether he be young or old, is exposed every moment to eternal destruction, that such a complaint and cry as this betrays a great deal of weakness and inconsideration. Innocent as children seem to us, yet, if they are out of Christ, they are not so in the sight of God, but are in a most miserable condition as well as grown-up persons. And they are naturally very senseless and stupid, being born as a wild ass's colt, and need much to awaken them. Why should we conceal the truth from them? Will those children who have been dealt tenderly with in this respect and lived and died insensible of their misery until they come to feel it in hell, ever thank their parents and others for their tenderness and not letting them know their danger? If parents' love towards their children were not blind, it would affect them much more to see their children every day exposed to eternal burning, and yet senseless, than to see them suffer the distress of that awakening which is necessary in order to their escape, and it tends to their being eternally happy as the children of God. A child that has a dangerous wound may need the painful lance, as well as grown persons, and that would be a foolish pity in such a case that such should hold back the lance and throw away the life. I have seen the happy effects of dealing plainly and thoroughly with children, and the concerns of their souls without sparing them at all, in many examples, and never knew any ill consequence of it in any one instance. Another thing that many have disliked is the religious meetings of children to read and pray together, and perform religious exercises by themselves. What is objected is children's want of that knowledge and discretion which is requisite in order to a decent and profitable management of religious exercises. But it appears to me the objection is not sufficient. Children, as they have the nature of men, are inclined to society, and those of them who are capable of society one with another are capable of the influence of the Spirit of God and its active fruits. And if they are inclined by a religious disposition, which they have from the Spirit of God, in order to improve their society one with another in a religious manner, and to religious purposes, who should forbid them? If they have not discretion to observe method in their religious performances, or to speak sense in all that they say in prayer, they may notwithstanding have a good meaning, and God understands them, and it does not spoil or interrupt their devotion one with another. We who are adults have defects in our prayers that are 1,000 times worse in the sight of God, and are a greater confusion and more absurd nonsense in his eyes than the childish indiscretions. There is not so much difference before God between children and grown persons as we are ready to imagine. We are all poor, ignorant, foolish babes in his sight. These are grown men and 100 years old in comparison with them. Children. Never was there such a glorious work amongst persons in their childhood as been of late in New England. He has been pleased in a wonderful manner to perfect praise out of the mouths of babes and sucklings, and many of them have more of that knowledge and wisdom that pleases him and renders their religious worship acceptable than many of the great and learned men of the world. It is they in the sight of God who are the ignorant and foolish children. These are grown men and 100 years old in comparison with them. It is to be hoped that the days are coming prophesied of in Isaiah when the child shall die 100 years old. I have seen many happy effects of children's religious meetings, and God has seemed often remarkably to own them in their meetings, and really descended from heaven to be amongst them. I have known several probable instances of children's being converted at such meetings. I should therefore think that if children appear to be really moved to it by a religious disposition, and not merely from a childish affection of imitating grown persons, they ought by no means to be discouraged or discountenanced. But yet it is fit that care should be taken of them by their parents and pastors, to instruct and direct them, and to correct imprudent conduct and irregularities, if they are perceived, or anything by which the devil may pervert and destroy the design of their meetings. All should take heed that they do not find fault with and despise the religion of children, from an evil principle, lest they should be like the chief priests and scribes, who were sort of pleased at the religious worship and praises of little children, and the honor they gave Christ in the temple. We have an account of it and what Christ said upon it in Matthew 21:15 and 16. And when the chief priests and scribes saw the wonderful things that he did, and the children crying in the temple and saying, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were sore displeased and said to him, Do you hear what those say? And Jesus said to them, Yea, have ye never read, out of the mouths of babes and sucklings thou hast perfected praise?